The dusty wind swirled through the cracked streets of the small town. The ruins of what once was a lively place, now a somber reminder of the past. The sun beat down hard, casting long shadows across the land. It was here, in this forgotten corner of the world, that Layla lived. A girl with strange violet eyes and a quiet demeanor, she had always been different from the other children. She was mute, unable to speak a word, though her mind raced with thoughts, dreams, and questions that she could never voice. Her stepfather, a cold man with a sharp tongue, often mocked her for her silence. He would call her useless, telling her that she was a burden to him and her mother. "What good are you if you can't even speak?" he would say, laughing as if her condition was some kind of joke. Layla hated him. Her mother, a kind-hearted woman, tried to defend her, but she was too weak to stand up to her husband. Layla's silence became her curse, and her stepfather used it against her every chance he got. One afternoon, everything changed. Her stepfather came to her with a cruel smirk on his face. "I've decided," he said, his voice dripping with amusement. "I'm going to sell you. Maybe a human will find some use for you. You're good for nothing here." Layla's heart sank, her breath catching in her throat. The thought of being sold, of being torn away from everything she knew, filled her with a deep fear. But there was something in her, a small spark, that refused to let go. Layla's eyes met her stepfather's, and for a moment, he seemed to falter, unsure of his own words. He quickly turned and walked away, as if to dismiss the matter altogether. Little did he know, this was only the beginning. Later that night, Layla found herself standing at the edge of the ruined town, her eyes fixed on the distant horizon. A strange feeling had taken over her, a mix of fear and something else, something unspoken. She felt like her whole world was about to change, but what could she do? She was mute. She had no voice to cry out for help, no way to fight back. As she stood there, a faint sound caught her attention. It was distant at first, but it grew louder, the sound of footsteps. Someone was coming. Layla quickly turned and crouched behind a broken wall, her heart racing. She couldn't see who it was, but the sense of danger was undeniable. The figure came closer, stepping cautiously over the debris that littered the ground. It was a man, tall and imposing, dressed in rugged clothes that blended with the wasteland. Around him, his face was weathered, his expression serious. There was something otherworldly about him, something that made Layla's instincts scream that he was not just any ordinary man. The man stopped just a few feet away from her hiding place. Layla held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy. The man seemed to be searching for something, his eyes scanning the surroundings. Layla's mind raced. Could he be one of the humans her stepfather had spoken about? Was he the one who would take her away? Suddenly, the man's gaze shifted, and for a brief moment, their eyes locked. Layla's pulse quickened. There was a strange connection in that moment, something unspoken, as though the man knew exactly who she was, and she knew exactly what he had come for. She could see the faint glow of something in his eyes, an alien presence that made her feel both afraid and oddly safe at the same time. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The man took a step closer, and Layla's instincts told her to run, to escape, to do anything to avoid the unknown fate that awaited her. But before she could move, the man spoke, his voice low and calm. "I know you're there. Come out. I won't hurt you." Layla froze. She didn't know how he knew she was there, but his voice held an odd, soothing quality. She hesitated, unsure whether to trust him, unsure of what he really wanted. She had been abandoned by everyone she knew, mocked and sold by the only family. She had left. Could this man truly be different? Her heart pounded as she made the decision. She stood slowly, stepping out from behind the wall and into the open. The man didn't move, his eyes still locked on hers. There was no immediate danger, no threat of violence. Instead, Layla felt a strange sense of curiosity, almost as if the man was waiting for something only she could give. "Who are you?" she finally managed to ask, her voice barely more than a whisper, though it wasn't words that left her lips. It was the emotion in her eyes, the intensity of her stare, that spoke louder than anything else. The man looked at her. For a long moment, his face unreadable. Then, he simply nodded. "I'm here for you," he said, his voice calm yet filled with an unspoken promise. And in that moment, Layla knew everything was about to change. Layla's heart raced as she stood before the stranger, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that felt almost supernatural. She couldn't shake the feeling that this man wasn't just a human, that there was something more to him. His calm demeanor, his voice, it was as if he already knew everything about her, without her ever saying a word. It was unnerving, yet strangely comforting at the same time. The wind picked up, kicking up dust from the broken streets, but neither of them flinched. Layla felt a shiver run down her spine as the man took a step closer, his boots crunching on the cracked earth beneath them. She instinctively took a step back, her eyes never leaving his. He didn't look like a soldier or anyone who would harm her, but after everything she had endured, trust wasn't something she could give easily. The silence between them grew thick, hanging in the air like a heavy fog. Layla didn't know how to respond. She couldn't speak, couldn't explain the fear that twisted inside her chest, the unease that made her palms sweat. The world had been so cruel to her already. How could she know that this stranger wasn't? Another cruel twist of fate? But the man, sensing her hesitation, simply smiled. It wasn't a malicious smile, but one of understanding, as if he could sense the turmoil running through her mind. "You're not alone," he said softly, his words barely more than a murmur carried on the wind. "I know what they did to you." Layla's eyes widened at the mention of them. How could he know? Her stepfather's cruel words, his constant mocking, all the years of feeling like she was worthless. It was like he had read her mind. But how? Layla didn't dare to ask. She didn't trust herself to speak. Instead, she took another hesitant step back, her mind racing with questions. Was he here to help her? Or was he part of the system that had abandoned her? Could she trust him, or was he just another person out to take advantage of her? The man seemed to understand her internal conflict. With a slow, deliberate motion, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, glowing object. Layla's breath caught in her throat. The object emitted a soft, pulsating light, like a heartbeat, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. The ruins, the dirt, the destruction, all of it disappeared as her attention locked onto the strange device. "What is that?" she finally whispered, her voice shaking, though it was the first time she had spoken in what felt like forever. The man smiled again, but this time there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. "It's something that can help you," he said, holding it out towards her. "Something that can help you speak." Layla froze. Help her speak? Could it be true? She had been mute for as long as she could remember. The thought of suddenly finding a way to communicate, to break free from the silence that had defined her life, was both exhilarating and terrifying. She looked at the device in the man's hand, then back at him. Her mind raced. Was it a trick? Could this strange man truly offer her something she had longed for her entire life? Seeing the doubt in her eyes, the man's expression softened. "It's not just a device. It's a connection. A way for you to express yourself without fear. But it's not just for speaking, it's for understanding." Layla's pulse quickened as she considered his words. Could it be possible? Was this some kind of alien technology? The idea seemed absurd, yet there was something about the man that made her believe in it, even if just for a moment. Her instincts told her to take a step forward, to reach out and take the device, to trust him. She could feel the weight of her decision pressing down on her, but there was something deeper within her that pushed her forward. She had been silent for so long, had suffered in silence. What was there to lose? Slowly, Layla extended her hand toward the glowing object. The man's eyes softened, and he placed it gently in her palm. The moment her skin touched the device, she felt a strange warmth spread through her body, like a pulse of energy flowing through her veins. Her breath hitched as a new sensation washed over her, one that was both alien and familiar. It was as if her mind was opening up in ways she couldn't quite understand. For a brief moment, everything around her went quiet. No sounds, no wind, no distant echoes of destruction. Just her, the man, and the strange device. It was as though time itself had paused. And then, something incredible happened. In the back of her mind, a voice whispered, a voice that wasn't hers, yet it felt like it was speaking directly to her. "You can speak now." Layla's eyes widened. The voice wasn't real, not in the traditional sense. It was more like a thought, a feeling that connected to her in a way that words never could. The realization hit her like a thunderclap. She could speak, but it wasn't just through her mouth. It was through her thoughts, through the connection between her and the strange device. The man watched her closely, sensing her reaction. "You're not alone anymore," he said again, his voice full of warmth. "You have a voice now." Tears welled up in Layla's eyes as the weight of the moment crashed down on her. For the first time in her life, she could truly speak. She could finally express herself, share her thoughts with the world. And it was all thanks to this mysterious stranger, this alien man who had appeared out of nowhere. But even as her heart swelled with hope, a new realization began to creep in. She wasn't just being given the ability to speak, she was being given something far greater. She was being given power, a power she hadn't even begun to understand yet. And with that power, Layla knew one thing for certain. Everything was about to change, forever. Layla stood still, her heart racing in her chest, as the voice continued to echo in her mind. The device in her hand pulsed gently, its glow fading and then brightening. Again, almost as though it was responding to her emotions. She had spoken, but not out loud. It was as if her thoughts were being amplified, and they now carried weight. For the first time in her life, her voice was not bound by her mute condition. She couldn't contain herself any longer. "Is this real?" Layla asked, her voice trembling, though it was as if the words had come from within her mind rather than from her mouth. There was no sound, no movement of air, yet the man's eyes softened as if he had heard her. "You are real," he said quietly, watching her carefully. "This is real. What you're feeling, it's all real. You are not what they told you. You are not mute. You are more than what you were made to believe." Layla's fingers tightened around the device, the hum of energy flowing through her fingertips. The power that surged inside her felt alien, yet instinctively familiar, as if it belonged to her. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was not just the ability to speak, it was a power that reached deep into her core, awakening something she never knew was there. "I can't believe this," she whispered, even though the words weren't spoken aloud. It was a thought, but it felt like a conversation, one that only she and the man could hear. The man stepped closer, his gaze still fixed on her with an unreadable expression. "There's much more you can do now, Layla, but there's something you need to understand." His voice, even though calm, carried an edge of urgency. "You weren't just given the ability to speak, you were chosen." "Chosen?" Layla thought back, her mind still reeling. She had never been special. She had always been the quiet, mute girl who no one noticed. So why would she be chosen for something so extraordinary? "Yes," the man replied, his tone deeper now, as if he was sharing something important. "Your silence wasn't just a curse, Layla. It was a test that you've passed. You were meant to endure, to grow stronger in ways you couldn't see at first." Layla's mind spun. "What do you mean?" she asked, confusion and disbelief flooding her thoughts. Why me? Why now? The man looked down at the ground for a moment, gathering his words carefully before answering. You were chosen because of your resilience. Because you endured the cruelty and mockery without breaking. You've always had this strength inside you, but now it's time to awaken it fully. As the man spoke, Layla felt a strange warmth in her chest. It was like the truth of his words was sinking in. The years of silence, the constant mockery, it all made sense now. It had shaped her, made her stronger than she had realized. You'll have to use that strength, Layla. The world is changing, and so are you. You can't remain the silent girl you once were. Your new voice is not just a gift, it's a weapon. A chill ran down Layla's spine. A weapon? Her voice? She had spent her entire life wishing she could speak, wishing she could be heard, but now the idea of her voice becoming a weapon terrified her. What did this mean? What kind of future was she about to step into? Before she could process his words any further, the man gave a small nod, as if he had read her mind. You don't have to understand everything right now. But know this, you are not alone in this. There are others like you. Others who have been waiting for you, and they will come for you. You'll need to be ready. Layla's breath caught in her throat. She had no idea what he was talking about, but the tone in his voice told her it was important. What do you mean, others? She thought, feeling a sense of urgency growing inside her. The world isn't as simple as it seems. The man said, his eyes darkening as he spoke. There are forces at work, forces that want to control what you now possess. Your gift, you've already seen a glimpse of it. Layla's mind flashed to the device, the strange warmth that spread through her when she touched it, the voice in her head. It all felt like a dream, but it was real. She was certain of that now. What forces? She asked, her thoughts desperate. For answers, the man met her gaze, his eyes filled with something darker, now regret, perhaps, or fear. I can't say much yet. But the people who sold you, who abandoned you, they know about this power. They know you're more than what they thought. And now they'll want you back, to control you, to use you. They won't stop until they do. A surge of anger flared in Layla's chest. They had sold her. They had mocked her. And now they wanted to control her? She clenched her fists, the device still pulsing in her palm. For the first time, Layla felt a fire inside her, a sense of purpose she had never known. The man noticed the change in her. You're not helpless anymore. But you'll need to train, to learn how to control this power. There's no time to waste. Layla's heart beat faster as she considered the man's words. She wasn't helpless. She wasn't the silent, broken girl she had been. She had a voice now. She had power. And she wasn't going to let anyone take that from her. Asterisk, the air round. Layla seemed to vibrate with a new energy, an intensity she hadn't felt before. It was as if the very ground beneath her feet hummed with potential, as though the world itself was shifting, preparing for something bigger. She held the strange device tightly in her hand, feeling its warmth seep into her skin, but there was no denying it. She had changed. And the world around her was beginning to change, too. The man who had given her this gift, this power, watched her closely, his eyes never leaving her face. He seemed to understand the turmoil that swirled inside her, the doubts, the fear. But there was something else there too, determination, and perhaps a hint of relief. He was waiting for her to make the next move, to decide if she was ready to embrace what was coming. Layla looked around, as if seeing the world for the first time. The ruins of the town, the broken buildings, the empty streets, it all seemed so distant now. She had always felt trapped here, bound by her silence, by the life others had forced on her. But now, with this power coursing through her, she didn't feel trapped anymore. She felt like she was on the edge of something far greater than she had ever imagined. What now? She finally asked, her thoughts clear and steady as she focused on the man. He sighed, as if weighing his words carefully. Now, you train. You learn how to control your power. You need to understand what this device does, and what it means for you. Layla nodded, the weight of his words sinking in. She wasn't sure how she could learn to control something so foreign, something that felt so beyond her, but she knew she had no choice. She had been given an opportunity, and she wasn't going to waste it. Where do I begin? She thought, her voice steady but full of curiosity. She was determined to learn. The man's face softened for a moment, as though he saw the fire in her eyes. I'll help you. But first, you need to understand the bigger picture. The device, the power you now possess, it's not just something that gives you a voice. It's a conduit. A link between you and a larger force. And it's that force that you need to understand if you're going to survive. Layla furrowed her brow, unsure of what he meant. What force? He took a deep breath, his eyes darkening as he prepared to reveal something that clearly weighed heavily on him. The world isn't just divided by borders, by nations, by people. It's divided by species. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange sense of isolation, of not fitting in. You're not human, Layla. You never were. Her breath caught in her chest. The words hit her harder than she had anticipated. She wasn't human? What was he saying? She felt a surge of disbelief course through her veins. She had always known she was different, but this was something else entirely. The man continued, his voice heavy with the truth. You are part of a race far older than humans. A race that exists in the shadows of the world, hiding from human eyes. And your power, the ability to speak, to influence, it's a gift that was meant to be passed down to those who could use it wisely. Layla's mind reeled as she processed his words. What do you mean? She asked, her thoughts swirling. Why me? Why was I chosen? He shook his head slowly. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that you were meant to be here. You've always been part of something greater. You just didn't know it yet. Layla felt the ground beneath her feet shift, and for the first time, she was struck by the sheer weight of the situation. She wasn't just some helpless girl who had been sold by her stepfather. She was a part of something ancient, something far beyond her comprehension. The man gave her a moment to absorb the information, letting the silence stretch between them before continuing. You are not alone, Layla. There are others like you. They've been living among humans for centuries, waiting for a time when the world would need them, and that time is now. Layla's pulse quickened. She was part of a hidden race, and now she was supposed to train to control this power and fight alongside others who shared the same gift. It was too much to take in, too many questions swirling in her mind. But why now? She thought, the confusion still evident in her mind. Why is it all happening now? The man's expression grew serious. The world is on the brink of a war. A war between those who would use the power for control, and those who would use it to protect. The humans who abandoned you, they're part of the group that wants to control the power, to use it for their own gain, and they'll stop at nothing to find you. Layla's heart raced. War? Control? She had been sold into slavery, mocked, and abandoned by those she had trusted. And now she was supposed to fight? But something inside her, a deep, burning anger began to awaken. The idea of being controlled, of being used again, stirred something fierce within her. I won't let them take me again, she thought, her voice filled with quiet strength. I won't let them control me. The man nodded slowly, as if he had heard her thoughts. Good, that's the spirit you'll need. You are more than just a victim, Layla. You are a weapon. And it's time to learn how to use it. A strange sense of purpose began to grow inside her. The confusion, the fear, it was all still there, but now it was tempered with determination. Layla wasn't just going to stand by anymore. She was going to fight. The man's voice brought her back to the present. We have a lot of training to do. But first, there's one more thing you need to know. Layla looked at him, her heart pounding. What is it? He hesitated, his eyes flickering to the distance as if he was seeing something she couldn't. You're not the only one with this power. There are others like you others who will want to join you. But there are also those who will come after you, who will want to control you. You have to be ready for both. Layla nodded, her grip tightening on the device. She was ready. Ready to face whatever came her way. The world was changing, and so was she. Asterisk, the night had settled over the desolate town, its quiet broken only by the occasional rustle of wind through the broken structures. Layla stood by the ruins, her mind whirling with the heavy revelations the man had shared. She wasn't just a mute girl anymore. She was something more, something that could change the course of history. But with that knowledge came a terrifying responsibility. The man who had become her guide and protector stood at a distance, his expression somber. We need to move, Layla, he said quietly, his tone urgent. The more you learn about your powers, the more dangerous things will become. The longer we wait, the more time they have to find you. Layla swallowed hard, the weight of his words settling deep within her. Who are they? She asked, her voice steady but filled with an edge of fear. She had to know. Who wants to control me? The man hesitated, his eyes narrowing as if he was piecing together his thoughts. They call themselves the Order of Ascension, a powerful group that has been pulling the strings in the shadows for years. They've been watching you, Layla. They've known about your abilities for a long time. And now they'll stop at nothing to capture you. The name sounded foreign, yet it struck a chord deep within her. The Order of Ascension. Layla whispered, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. Why me? What do they want with me? They want the device, the power it holds, the man replied, his voice grim. They believe that whoever controls you controls the world. Your gift isn't just about speech. It's about influence. Control over thoughts, over minds. They want that power for themselves. Layla's stomach churned. She couldn't fathom what kind of people would seek to control others in such a way. But it wasn't just her power they wanted. It was her. You think they'll come for me here? She asked, her voice shaking with uncertainty. The man's eyes turned cold, his gaze fixed on the horizon as if he were already picturing the battle that lay ahead. Yes, they're already hunting for you, Layla. You're not safe here anymore. The weight of his words crushed her chest, but beneath it, a flicker of something stronger began to stir. Anger, determination. She was tired of being hunted. Tired of being seen as weak. She had a voice now. And she would use it. What should I do? She asked, her thoughts sharp, her resolve forming. How do I fight them? The man's expression softened slightly, a trace of pride in his eyes. You don't fight them with weapons, Layla. You fight them with what you've been given, the power to influence, to control. You have to learn to trust your instincts, to focus your energy. But first, we need to get you to safety. The Order has spies everywhere. If we stay here, we'll be walking right into their trap. Layla nodded, a surge of urgency flooding her chest. It was time to stop running, to stop hiding. She wasn't a pawn to be moved around anymore. She had control over her own fate now. And it was time to take it. Together, they moved quickly, navigating through the silent streets of the broken town. Every shadow seemed to carry a hidden threat. Every gust of wind felt like a warning. But Layla's mind was sharp now, focused, as if the device had unlocked a deeper part of her. The part that could see beyond fear, beyond doubt. They didn't talk much as they moved through the ruins, but Layla could feel the man's presence beside her, his readiness to protect her no matter what came. She knew he wasn't telling her everything, but she didn't need him to. She knew enough now to understand what was at stake. The Order of Ascension was real, and they wouldn't stop until they had her. until they had the power she now held. Eventually, they arrived at a hidden cave outside the town, an old shelter that seemed untouched by time. The man led her inside, where a faint glow illuminated the walls. The cave was silent, save for the sound of water dripping somewhere in the distance. It felt safe, but Layla knew it wouldn't last long. "You're safe here for now," the man said, his voice low and careful. "But we can't stay long. We need to move quickly. Tomorrow we start your training." "Training?" Layla asked. Her eyebrows furrowed. "What do I need to learn? How do I fight them?" The man took a deep breath and glanced around, his gaze lingering on the shadows in the cave. "You need to learn how to harness your power, how to use it to protect yourself, to influence others, to create change. The device isn't just a tool, it's a key. But without understanding how it works, you'll never be able to control it." Layla clenched her fists. She wasn't sure how long she could wait, how long she could hide. The anger inside her burned hotter. She had been silent for so long. She wasn't going to hide anymore. "Not from the Order, not from anyone. I don't want to hide anymore," she said, her voice strong and unwavering. The man gave her a small, approving nod. "Then let's begin. But you need to understand something, Layla. This won't be easy. You'll be tested. Your limits will be pushed. And not everyone will survive this fight. You have to be ready to make difficult choices." Layla nodded firmly, the weight of his words sinking in. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about something greater. Something she had never even considered before. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for the future, for the power to change things, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. "I'm ready," Layla said, her voice clear. The man nodded. "Good. Tomorrow you'll begin to understand what you're truly capable of." As he turned to prepare for the training ahead, Layla stood alone for a moment, staring into the darkness of the cave. Her heart beat loudly in her chest, her thoughts racing. The world was at war, and she was at the center of it. She was no longer the silent, broken girl she had been. She was something more. And now she would become the force that would fight for freedom. The cave was silent as Layla stood at the center of the room, her thoughts swirling with everything she had learned over the past few days. The weight of the man's words echoed in her mind. "You are a weapon. This is a fight for the future." She could still feel the device pulsing in her hand, its energy coursing through her veins, filling her with an unnatural strength. She was no longer just a girl who had been abandoned. She was a force, a being of power that even the Order of Ascension feared. But she wasn't sure if she was ready. She had trained relentlessly since their arrival at the cave, mastering control over her abilities, learning how to focus the power inside her and use it to influence others. It was more than just words now. Her mind could reach into the hearts and minds of those around her, shaping their thoughts, making them bend to her will. It was a skill that could break cities, topple governments, and even control entire armies. But it was also dangerous. The line between using it for good and losing herself in the process was razor thin. The man had prepared her well, teaching her the importance of balance, of knowing when to strike and when to wait. But as the hours passed, Layla felt the urgency growing stronger. She couldn't stay hidden forever. The Order was close. She could feel their presence, like a storm gathering on the horizon, ready to consume everything in its path. And they would stop at nothing to capture her, to control her, and to bend her power to their will. It's time, Layla thought, her breath steady, her mind clear. She had a choice to make, a choice that would define everything. The man approached, his eyes serious, his face hard with resolve. "The Order is coming. You know what to do. But are you ready for what comes next?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper, as though he were testing her. Layla took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around the device. "I'm ready," she said, her voice firm. He nodded, a small hint of approval in his eyes. Then you must go. You must face them and make the choice, Layla. You have the power to change everything. But the question is, what will you do with it? Will you use it to control, to dominate? Or will you use it to protect? The weight of his question settled heavily on her chest. She had always been a victim, silent, powerless, and unseen. Now she had the strength to do anything, to become anyone. But power came with a price. The Order would want her to use it. To control, to reshape the world in their image. But Layla wasn't sure she could do that. She didn't want to become what they were. She didn't want to become a tyrant. "I will protect," she said, her voice unwavering. The man's face softened. "Then you must face the ones who would use you. Show them that you are not a weapon to be wielded. You are a force to be reckoned with." Without another word, he stepped aside, allowing her to move toward the exit of the cave. Layla took one last look around, feeling the weight of her decision. She wasn't just walking into a battle. She was walking into her destiny. The night air was cold, but it felt different now. It felt like the calm before the storm. Layla could feel the power inside her, the electricity in the air, and she knew that she was ready. She was no longer the frightened girl who had been abandoned and mocked. She was Layla, the one who would change the world. As she stepped out into the open, the first rays of dawn began to break across the sky. The horizon was painted in shades of red and orange, and for a brief moment, the world felt still, almost as if it were holding its breath. Then she heard it. The sound of boots marching in the distance. The Order was here. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she didn't hesitate. She knew what had to be done. Layla raised her hand, focusing all of her energy into the device. The world around her seemed to slow as the air thickened with power. She could feel the minds of those around her. She could feel the soldiers, the spies, the agents who had been sent to find her. They were close. They were waiting for her to make a move. The time had come. With a single thought, Layla reached out, her mind connecting with the nearest soldier. She didn't say a word, but she didn't need to. The connection was instant, and the power was overwhelming. She could feel his thoughts, his fears, his desires, all of it rushed through her. She took control, shaping his will, turning him into an ally. The soldier lowered his weapon, and his expression changed from one of hostility to one of confusion. The others hesitated, sensing something was wrong. Layla didn't waste any time. She moved to the next soldier, then the next, each thought carefully crafted, each mind reshaped. They tried to resist, but one by one, they fell under her influence. The fear that had once gripped her was gone. She wasn't using them to dominate. She was using them to protect, but the Order was not so easily deterred. As Layla advanced, their leaders emerged from the shadows, their eyes cold and calculating. They saw her for what she was, a threat, and they would not be swayed by her power. The battle was not over. The final showdown was coming, and Layla knew, deep in her heart, that she had made the right choice. She wasn't a weapon to be wielded. She was the force that would fight for freedom, for a future where no one was controlled, where no one was silenced. The Order would fall,